Hey everyone, it's Classic DM. This video is going to give you an inside look at the Indigo Oasis, a free one-shot adventure for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I'm just going to briefly go through the whole module and let you get a sneak peek of what's inside of it. It's a free download on my website. There'll be a link in the description. So right off the bat, one of the things about this adventure is it's highly inspired by the digital art of Vasily Provotorov, who I communicated with last year, and he said I could use his Unreal 4 level as inspiration for this adventure. I always wanted to do something that had that Desert of Desolation kind of vibe, but also work really, really well for introducing brand new players to Pathfinder 2nd Edition or Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. So there's a lot of elements in here designed for you to play with a new player, like kids or girlfriends or boyfriends or people who haven't really played a lot of D&D games before. So let's just dig into all the little details here. There's a musical element to this adventure, which is really, really neat. So you'll find there's a lot of hyperlinks throughout the entire video. So you got a typical title page, a few background type copyright information. This is the basic overview of the entire adventure. Things that are in sand color like this you'll read to players. Stuff in green like this is you paraphrase for your adventures. Things in yellow like this are key concepts you remember. And I put little designer notes like poster notes throughout the entire module to tip you off about things you need to know about. Also, there's some videos I created last year and this year. Well, this was originally created for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I've completely converted it and modified it, improved it, and fixed a lot of things about it after about 6 or 7 major play sessions. I also include some house rules, so I have a number of videos on my YouTube channel, so those links are in here as well. Including links to the pre-generated characters. The pre-generated characters actually included at the back of the module. So that's really, really useful. If you want to get started playing, you can just pick the pre-generated characters that we have right off the bat. I have links to everything throughout this whole thing. It's really designed to be a digital book, including all the rule books. I did a video on this about a year ago, and over 8,000 people have been watching it, and I think that it's just kind of taken off in its own life of its own. A lot of people like to have the links that are there, and I have the links on my website, but I thought, from now on, I want people to be able to get these books. They're just so inexpensive. In fact, I think right now they're on sale till March the 15th for like $4. It's just ridiculous. You can get PDF copies of these, official PDF copies from Wizards of the Coast. So once you have it once, you have it forever at the Dungeon Masters Guild, which is essentially the same thing as Drive Through RPG. And of course, the Desert Desolation series, which you see here on the right, originally done by Tracy and Laura Hickman and Philip Myers a long time ago in 1987 or so, 83, and then they made a super module. Made this, what the one you see here is a super module. These are just the classics. I mean, the 6 core books to the left, and just pick and choose any of the modules that you love. It's just so fun. And if you notice carefully that this link here will filter. So if you click on this one right here, it'll filter through all the stuff that's on the Dungeon Masters Guild and just show you AD&D stuff, which is really, 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 really useful if you're trying to find other cool adventures. The module has a lot of writing, a lot of philosophical elements. It's written for someone to try to, I've been playing 5th edition. I've never really played AD&D before. A lot of you old schoolers who've been playing forever, you're going to have your own way of doing things anyway. So the writing here is really kind of speaking to someone who hasn't DM'd old school adventure games like this, and perhaps didn't realize some of the things you can do with Advanced Dungeons & Dragons because they're so used to doing it in the modern day with 5th edition, which is a little bit more social and more voice acting and things like that. So conflict is a big element of this. There's a lot of advice in here for someone who's a new DM. So even if you've never played or haven't played since you're a little kid, this module has a good few pages of kind of letting you know, here's some of the basics, here's some of the things you need to do. Keep it even, keep the storyline, cater to your players. I'm a video game designer, and you want the players to have fun, especially if you're bringing in new people who've never played D&D before. You don't want their first adventure to be like if you're playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you haven't played before, you're going to die in the first encounter. It's pretty nasty. Another thing throughout this entire adventure is there's lots of visual references. The entire module is free, so all this is publicly accessible information on the internet. There's all kinds of narrative elements, like I said, in the sand color written along here that you can read to the players. I try to put little flag notes like this that say, show this to your players, read this to your players. So even if you're just picking it up and you got it on your computer, you'll know what elements to look at. The storyline kind of progresses. It has lots of images. There's even some background information you can learn about that's related to how Tuaregs handle living in the desert in real life. There's a massive sandstorm sequence that kind of separates the players from what they originally thought they're going to do. It's kind of a twist of what's happening on the storyline, and then it ultimately transitions them into the Indigo Oasis itself. I won't tell you what it's all about, but it's a very magical place that's kind of stuck as a glimpse between the past of 1,000 years ago and the present. So there's a big element of time. There's a big element of music, and there's a big element of death and ghosts and the afterlife in this, and it's kind of themes that anyone can identify with. Once the players actually transition from where they are now, they become kind of trapped in this infinite dunes desert situation where every time they exit off the map one way, they end up looping back around to the other. There's a landmark, which is an ancient skeleton Crimson Warrior in a trunk. So all that's given you in detail. This is all more content you read the players, foreign languages that are written on some of the magical charms, some of my house rules and how players can translate writing, do like a remember history check against their wisdom, or translate writing using their intelligence, or use an identify spell, of course, if they want to do that as well. Once they have this magical chest and they figure out how to open it up, they'll find inside there's all these really historical instruments, and there's elements of foreshadowing of hearing the music in the background. There's links to an appropriate song that's done by Lorena McKenna that's just instrumentation called Marco Polo. There's full credit for her. This is from her official website. This is just a web link. She didn't write the song obviously for this. This was done in the mid 90s. That song is fantastic for ambience. There's a lot of what to read to the players. So you'll see that as a dungeon master, all the stuff that's written in sand font color like this is what you read to the players. I'm a writer also, besides being a video game designer, so I'm trying to write this as you're kind of like you're reading it and it's speaking right to the players and really painting a visual picture to them. Now, if you want to get yourself a Bluetooth speaker, or you got your laptop going, or you got it on a big screen TV, or using a digital battle map, there's some links to some really, really great YouTube videos which work as infinitely looping ambient sounds done by Sword Coast Soundscapes. I use Sword Coast Soundscape stuff almost all the time in all my videos because he's really, really talented. His ambient tracks are very interesting. He's always tried to tie them into themes that are very identifiable. And, these guys put tons of stuff up for free. It's really useful to make your gaming sessions come alive. So I actually picked out some ones I think will work really well, even tell you like when to use them when you're playing. Of course, we got one of our typical, classic DM, old school architectural chicken scratch style maps with camera positions. In this situation here, we've got different camera positions to kind of tell you what the point of view is, a quick little brief description of what all the areas are. This is marked up for the Dungeon Master for you, so you know what to see. So when you start showing them these pictures, which are real-time screenshots taken in Unreal Engine 4, you'll know that this is, the Western Terrace looking to the northwest, or the West Terrace looking to the southwest, or the view of the ruined estates, the east and the west side looking due south, the marsh and city walls, which looks southwest, and West Terrace looking southeast. And all these images are there for you to show to your players. And the whole thing you'll see is not this typical two-column portrait format. That's on purpose. This is so you can run this PDF on your laptop, and you can stick an HDMI cable and jam it on a big screen TV. So these are high resolution 1080p type images, so they're going to look really, really good on a big screen TV. So if you're playing D&D and you got a TV, or you want to cast your laptop to a TV, you can flip through the PowerPoint and show the stuff to your players. They're like, wow, that's what it looks like. That's great. There's lots of details behind the scenes that talk about the NPC character who's named Jana, what her situation is, how she's going to act, even her dialogue, what she actually says. There's the backstory of where Jana, what's really going on with her and her dog and her mother, which appears much later on when you defeat the entire adventure because she's essentially a ghost. There's a detailed breakdown of the map, which kind of shows you where enemies should come from. How to handle the pacing of that's also described in a lot of detail. That makes it much easier for you as a dungeon master to try to figure out how to make sure the pacing is fun for players who haven't played before. That was the main idea behind designing this thing. If I made a dungeon and said you enter a room, there's 2 fire giants and they have 37 and 48 hit points, you don't know whether your players are really going to be able to defeat that or not. It depends what the composition of the party is. It depends what spells they memorize, what gear they have, what their armor class is, what their typical to hit number is going to be. So that's one of the things that's really a challenge with new players. With old school players, we love going, oh no, this is going to be tough. What are we going to do here to win this, right? But with new players, they have a tendency to kind of Diablo mode things and kind of rush in there and start fighting. So, or they stare at their character sheet not really knowing what to do. So this whole combat encounter system I've designed out here really gives you a sense of how, hey, you've got some options of where the enemies are coming from. You've got this sphere of music, which is extremely powerful for weakening the enemies by warping them forward in time. It also has a tremendously overpowered healing effect. So if you've got like a little brother and sister playing at the table, they can be charging forward and killing things while mom and dad are playing the musical instruments and keeping the young ones alive. So it's really designed around having teamwork for your your party. There's descriptions of how the attack actually happens, when the combat sequence begins. I'm giving you instructions like what the enemies are trying to do, how they're trying to grab Jana, what happens if she gets away, how does she do a shin kick and knock one of the guys on their butt, what their movement rates are if they get grabbed, how you can set them free. It's kind of like capture the flag with the girl, which is a concept that I first dorked around with years ago when I worked at Crytek for Game of Four Jelena. In that video game, the player and the main player and the main starring heroine, which is a young girl, 10 years old, was actually like a living flag in a capture flag game, and all the bad guys and the goons were trying to capture her and take her off the map. So I'm still using this idea that I did in 2004 today, some 16 years later. I think it's a really powerful way to make the objective be an actual living person as opposed to just protecting someone cranking a winch in a dungeon, which is kind of like boring in World of Warcraft. I talk a lot about music and pacing in this module, and of course, remember, stuff in green is for you to paraphrase, or if you and stuff is yellow is like really important for you to remember how to handle this. So you have a winning condition, how to handle the enemies, and the pacing. I even make some suggestions, based on my personal experience on how to run this. It's not designed to be an adventure where people are going to wipe out and die the first time through. So if you're super duper hardcore guys, you might have fun doing this, but bring some noobs along, bring some young people along, bring a player who hasn't played in a long time, because the two main enemies in this are living Crimson Sun warriors, which are on the left, and then undead versions of them. After they've died, they become skeletal. So that can be caused. You can turn the living guys, who are pretty decent for level 1 characters, to fight. These guys are armor class 7 and 8 hit points each. That's nothing to scoff at. If you've got 4 of these guys on screen using spears and scimitars, people can get killed who aren't very good. I mean, a magic user with only 4 hit points trying to go toe to toe on these things. But if you destroy them with the music and the instruments around the campfire, you can nerf them down to very slow moving, shambling, mindless, very weak, very easy to hit skeletal warriors, and then all they're going to do then is just get destroyed by the player. So it's a really interesting twist to an adventure. It's kind of like a holdout mission. Once you've resolved everything and defeated everything, and you protected a little girl, her mother will come and take her to the afterlife, and that's the resolution. And the reward for the players is one of these magical instruments, which allows them to teleport back to this ripple in time, the Indigo Oasis, anytime they want from wherever they are. So not only will it warp them back in time, it'll warp them to this location, and then they're trapped in that location for 8 hours. It's always night. There's food, there's water. They can completely heal themselves, and then after 8 hours, they get warped back to where they were, but it's 8 hours later. So it's a very, very powerful kind of artifact item, meaning that even if your party is almost dead and everyone's down to 5 or 6 hit points, and you can get the door bolted, and if someone can strum the guitar for 6 bars, you can warp the whole party out of there if you're touching people and holding people and rescue yourselves. But when you get out, because you're going to go right back to where you were. So it doesn't allow you to escape and like warp to town. It's not a Hearthstone like a World of Warcraft. And of course, it's a copy of the map. It still has my grid on it. For you Roll20 people and Fantasy Grounds people, that's going to probably irritate you. But if there's demand for one without the grid on it, let me know and I can figure something out for you. So far, the electronic gaming community doesn't really seem to use my stuff very much. So that's up to you. Of course, we've recently been doing the rise of IAs or IAs, however you want to pronounce it, campaign. I decided to include these pre-generated characters here for fun, for free. So we've got all those characters there. They're from the world of Greyhawk. You can read about them. There's videos in that adventure series that describes their personalities and what's going on. There's gameplay recordings I'm doing for this right now as they're trying to liberate an occupied village of Hamlet 40 years before the fall of the Temple of Elemental Evil. So that's another neat video series you should check out. So there's 6 pre-generated characters in here. You've got a dwarf warrior, you've got a human cleric, you've got a gnome assassin, you've got a human female monk, you've got a human male druid, and an elf magic user. So those are really useful. A little bit of background on me and some links to cool fun things like my LinkedIn profile or YouTube or Facebook page for my gaming stuff, and I'll copy to one of my novels in there. I've included the Osric Open license here. I haven't converted this module 100% to be 100% compatible with Osric. Osric has kind of some funny terms where they say like you cannot say it's compatible with Osric. So until I can figure that out, I'm just including this for people to know about Osric, because Osric is a real great way if you wanted to sell your modules to make something compatible with AD&D, but they call other things different. I include that license in here to make sure no one gets upset. And of course, I'm including the open game license version 1.0a, which is the classic OGL license as well. So hopefully those things will keep anyone from giving me hassle. Remember, this is a non-commercial product. It's completely free. It's just like someone putting together a presentation and share with their friends. So that's what we got in this adventure overall. It was a lot of fun to do. It took me a number of weeks to put it all together. I think it's got some really neat ideas in there, and for a brand new adventure you can play in an afternoon with your friends. It's a great warm up for people who haven't played in a long time. And so hopefully this video gives you an insight of what's on the inside, and go download it and share it with your friends. I appreciate if you have any feedback, like I like this, I don't like this. Share the feedback with me. One of the best places to share feedback is on my YouTube channel. Like for example, this video. If you want to go to my Facebook page, you can leave comments too. And I know that in the modern world, a lot of people are super busy and there's a lot of things on people's minds right now. But if you ever get a chance to run this as a DM, I'd love to hear what you think. Is there anything in there you think you wish you had more of, or you wish you had less of? But other than that, it's a different twist on a typical module, and hope you have fun with it. We'll talk to you later, and just want to give you a quick snapshot of what's inside the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons version of the Indigo Oasis. Take care. We'll talk to you later.